Good morning, everyone. I have returned. I'm up in the lakes. I've had a pretty bad year. So I just wanted to do a bit of an update. There's no purpose really to where I'm heading today. I just needed to get out somewhere that makes me happy. So yeah, I had a free day. So I'm up in Grasmere. I've been meaning to do an update for a long time, but as you know, I don't like sitting and talking to a camera. So I thought the best thing to do was to actually come out on a walk, and then I feel a lot more comfortable talking. Just parked up in Grasmere. I'm currently on the Coffin route, which I've never been on before, but I've heard of a lot. Apparently this is where they used to carry the coffins from Ambleside to Grasmere, because Grasmere was the only consecrated ground for burial. So yeah, I learned something today. So when I got up this morning, the plan was to drive to Grasmere and then just have a wander up to Easdale Tarn. But already it's changed. And I'm going from Grasmere to Rydal Caves, and then I'm coming back via Silverhow, which is one of the first Wainwrights my son did many years ago. So yeah, just a little one. So that'll be nice. It's a nice day, it's very cold. So I've had a couple of people ask me over the last couple of months where I am I alright, am I still doing the challenge, which is the running around the coast. I have been absent from YouTube for quite a while. I've had a few issues. So yeah, it's been a tough year. Some of my videos from earlier in the year, you might have noticed I was struggling quite a bit with my breathing. I thought it was hay fever. Just kind of went downhill. Back in April, I got a really bad viral infection. And I wasn't the only one. It was rife. It was going around everywhere. My daughter had it, and then I caught it off her. But I just really struggled to shake it. Normally, I recover quite quickly from things like that, but no, I think it was about 6 weeks. It just floored me. I had no energy. Just couldn't do anything. I was just sleeping a lot. Just as I was recovering from that, I got COVID. Luckily I wasn't too bad with it, but obviously I had to be careful not to put too much stress on my body. I think I was obviously still quite run down from the infection. That's why I got COVID so quickly afterwards. That was probably about May, beginning of June. Absolutely stunning. Can't believe I've not been up here before. In July, I think it was the first or second week of July, I was admitted to hospital. Initially they thought I had Crohn's disease. I'd had a sickness bug for about a week. It just wasn't getting any better. I went to the doctor numerous times, and then on the final time going to see my GP, I was sent straight to A&E because I was showing signs of sepsis. So I had scans, hooked up to drips, and then I was told, we think you've got Crohn's disease. The scan showed I had quite a bit of inflammation of my colon, so I was put on a steroid drip. I had the wind knocked out of me with that because my mum has Crohn's disease, so I know just how it affects you. So then the day after I had that bombshell, I was visited by the gastro team. They asked quite a few questions, and they said, well, we're not certain you've got Crohn's disease. We think it could just be food poisoning and caused by some bacteria. So they tested for that, and it did come back positive for Campylobacter. So they did think that it was just a really bad case of food poisoning. Spent 4 nights in hospital, came home, and it didn't settle down completely. So I've since been back to the doctors, and there is still a question mark over that diagnosis. I'm waiting for a referral back to gastro for some further testing. So yeah, that kind of took me up to August. Again, having such a bad bacterial infection just knocks you for 6. So yeah, probably towards the end of August was where I was getting back to, right, let's crack on again. And then, yeah, that's when my world really crashed down around me. Rydal water, looking stunning. So, the end of September, my dad was diagnosed with leukemia. He'd had a blood condition for a few years, which was controlled by medication, but because of that he had to go for regular blood tests just to monitor any changes. They'd said one of your blood tests has come back abnormal, so we want to just do another test. So cue lots of tests, bone marrow biopsy, and then the last week in September he got the official diagnosis that he had leukemia. So from that point, I went to all his appointments with him, took him for all his blood tests, biopsies, and to see the consultant. And at the time we were told his blood levels were stable, that he was a good candidate for treatment, and that potentially, he could live beyond a year. So that was positive. So we started the ball rolling for him to start chemotherapy the following week on the 7th of October. Signed all the forms, got everything in place for him. And then the Friday before he was due to start the treatment on the Tuesday, we got a phone call from the consultant saying that the blood results they'd taken at the time of signing the forms for the chemotherapy had come back, and the leukemia had progressed to a point where treatment wouldn't be effective. So in the space of less than a week, we'd gone from there's no rush to decide whether you want to go for treatment to sorry, it's too late. So I asked the doctor you know, what were we looking at timescale wise if we didn't have treatment, and she said weeks. And me and my dad, we just cried. Rydal Caves. So this is another place I remember coming with my son and my daughter, and he was a bit over enthusiastic on the stepping stones and he fell in, but fair play to him, he carried on walking up Loughrig. So it was a lovely day, so he did dry out pretty quick, but yeah, I'll remember that. It's just such a beautiful day. Lovely views down to Rydal Water and Silver How, which is where I'm heading next, just over there. Onto Loughrig Terrace, and can just about see Grasmere coming into view. I was just going to have a seat and admire the view, but looking at that bench, I think it's seen better days. Not sure it'll take my weight. Right, found another bench, but it's icy, so I'm going to get a cold bum. But I'm just going to have a minute. You can see Helm Crag, Calf Crag, Gibson Knot. Ooh. Silver How, which is where I'm heading. Oh, right, time to carry on. My hair's really annoying me today. I'm on about the 5th hairstyle. I've not got my signature French plaiting, so that'll teach me. Continuing from where I left off with when we had the news that my dad's leukemia was untreatable. That was on the Friday. On the Saturday he became a little bit unwell, pain in his stomach. He had the GP and they said it was a flare-up of his diverticulitis and gave him some antibiotics. And then on the Sunday I went to see him and I wasn't happy with how he was. He had a fever, he was shivering, but he was saying he was hot and his temperature was 39. So I got on to the nurses and I just said, look, I'm really worried. Obviously he's no immune system because of the leukemia. What do I do? The nurse advised me to take him straight to A&E, which I did. And to be fair, he was seen pretty quickly. Saw the triage, they took blood, and then within maybe an hour and a half, he was called through by the doctor. We went to a cubicle, and I just remember a really grave look on the doctor's face, and he just said, you're very poorly, which we knew, but he had an infection somewhere in his body, and his kidneys were basically struggling, so he was put on an antibiotic drip and then sent back in the waiting room. Langdale Youth Hostel, lovely hostel. I really enjoyed my stay here a couple of years ago. Yeah, nice and big. So yeah, he was put on antibiotics and then sent back to the waiting room. This was probably about 10:30, 11 o'clock at night. And he told me to go home, which I did. It was alright, it was in good spirits. And then the day after, I went back to the hospital. He'd spent the night in A&E in what can be only described as a cupboard, with a trolley in it. And the doctor came in, a different doctor, and started talking about signing a DNR form, a do not resuscitate. Obviously because of his age, because of his condition, they thought that if his heart were to stop, he wouldn't really be a good candidate for resuscitation. So I mean, that told us a lot that morning about what the doctors thought. So I wasn't convinced that it was the diverticulitis causing this. I mean, I'm not a doctor, but there was just something not sitting right with me. And while we were sat in this cupboard, he was complaining about his back hurting, where he had the bone marrow biopsy taken from. So I asked him if I could have a look, and he looked really red and really angry. And I'd said to him, I think that's your source of the infection. So when the doctor came back in, he had a look, and sure enough, yeah, they thought that that's where the infection was coming from. So ironically, the biopsy he'd had done to try and, find out what was going on with the leukemia made him really poorly. So he spent a week in hospital. He responded really well to the antibiotics. His kidneys recovered. I say kidney, because he actually had a kidney removed a couple of years ago because it was cancerous. But it's since been given the all clear from that. 5 miles. So yeah, after a week he was allowed home. Now, if you follow my YouTube for a while, you'll know that my mum has motor neurone disease and my dad is her carer. So obviously him not being around to look after my mum gave us something else to deal with, and we had to put her in a home temporarily while he was in hospital, and then while he was recovering. We did try to keep her at home. We had carers coming 3 times a day. Myself and my sister would go and see to her in between, but then with all the hospital visits it just got too much. So that the best thing we could do for her to make sure she was safe and looked after was to put her in respite, which was very hard on all of us, especially my mum. But it was something which had to be done, really. So yeah, he came out of hospital, came out with COVID. So within a couple of days of being home, he started off with a cold. So straight away I'm thinking, oh God, no immune system, how is he going to fight this? So I was on to the nurse again. And she said, has he done a COVID test? I hadn't even thought of that, so did a COVID test, positive. So then I had to run around trying to get some antivirals for him to help him recover. So again, it's like, oh, you know, this is it again. He's just got over one infection and then he gets something else. He got over the COVID, which, you know, I'm just amazed by how strong he was at just kicking the ass of all these infections. And then within about 3 or 4 days of testing negative for COVID, he ended up back in hospital again with an abscess under his tooth. I should be over there. I'm not doing really well at navigating today. My head just isn't in it. And I did only throw this route together this morning, so it's not planned very well. So what was a 7-mile walk will probably be about 9 miles by the time I'm done. Let's just go and get back on track. That's Dowbank just in front, and then Silverhow to the side. Yeah, so he spent about 2 weeks in hospital that time. The first week he was on a general ward with 7 other beds, people coughing, spluttering all around him, which for someone with no immune system isn't the best. So he didn't really seem to be getting any better. He was just picking up more infections. They eventually managed to get him into a side ward, and they continued pumping in more antibiotics, the strongest one they could give him. And he wasn't responding too greatly. He got cellulitis in his hand. So in the end, they just said, there's nothing more really we can do for you. We're going to send you home and get the palliative team to look after you. And that's what happened. He came home. I think he was just really, really glad to get home. His home comforts, be able to watch his telly, and he really picked up when he came home. The cellulitis in his arm, which wasn't responding in hospital, went down. He had a really good appetite. His meal of choice when I took him home was an Indian takeaway, so he wasn't off his food at all. So we enjoyed a good week of him feeling really, really good. I took him for his haircut. I took him out for a nice lunch somewhere. And then he started to struggle again. He was just really, really tired. He had a really sore throat, was struggling to swallow. The GP came out to see him. He had a fungal infection in his mouth, so she said, no wonder you're really sore, and gave him some medicine. That was on the Friday. That's pretty much all was said. Saturday, he just slept most of the day. Again, said his throat was really sore, couldn't swallow. But we were just thinking, you know, once this medicine kicks in, he'll be back to how he was a few days ago. Sunday, still the same. I remember going in seeing him on the Sunday. I walked in the living room and I just thought, he looked grey. I just thought he doesn't look well at all. He didn't want anything to eat. He just said he couldn't swallow. He was just so tired. But again, we knew he wasn't sleeping because of the throat infection. So we just thought he'll pick up. You know, the doctor hadn't given us any cause to think otherwise. Passed away that evening. I've never felt pain like. Eight weeks from being diagnosed. That was last week, so it's just been a whirlwind this last week, making arrangements for the funeral, looking after my mum, trying to sort other things out, and I've just managed today to get a day to myself, no appointments, no visitors, where I can just come out and come to my happy place. He wouldn't want me to be upset. 6 miles. Yeah, I think it's just hard because we've spent the last 8 weeks just running around sorting him out with, you know, taking him to the hospital, looking after my mum. I've had to take my mum to the hospital to see him, then take him back to the home. So it's literally just been a whirlwind 8 weeks. None of us really got the chance to come to terms with the diagnosis, which makes it all the harder now to believe that that's it. Not far off the top of Silver How now. I said I wasn't far off the top of Silver How. In true Claire style, of course I was a flipping long way away. Still climbing. Made it. Oh, Silver How. Another one of round 2 done. Now I don't know how many I'm up to on round 2. It's about 20 something. but because I headed out here not really knowing what I was going to do, I didn't look at where I was up to. Fantastic view down to Grasmere and Rydal Water, and you can just see Windermere as well. Right, time to head down. Oh, it's a little bit icy. It's a bit of a steep descent. Oh, there's some steps there. That's good. Right, well done if you're still with me. So I've talked about why I've been absent, so let's talk about what's to come. So the Running the Coast challenge is still very much on the radar. I've raised £165 for the Motor Neurone Disease Association up to now, and I've run from Gretna Green to Grange. Now I have only uploaded the videos, I don't know where I've uploaded them to, maybe Barrow or Ulverston. I think Ulverston, I think that's as far as I've got uploading, so I've got about 4 or 5 videos to edit and upload. Unfortunately I've just not been in the right headspace and I've not had time to do that, so I am going to do that so that I can get back into it. I've nearly completed the Cumbria Coastal Way. I've just got 2 days, if you like, to do to complete that. One is Grange to Arnside and then Arnside to Silverdale, and that will take me to Lancashire. So I would like to have finished the Cumbria Coastal Way by the end of the year, and then I can hit Lancashire in the new year, and hopefully next year be well into Wales as well. Still fundraising. Thank you to everyone who's supported and donated, very much appreciated. I do feel like I could have done more to push the fundraising, but again it's just having time to do that. I am contemplating doing some fundraising for Blood Cancer UK, obviously in honour of my dad. At the minute I'm wondering whether to do that as part of the coast run, you know, have both charities and people can donate to which one they prefer. I'm also looking for a big challenge for next year, so I've had a few thoughts. One is a wing walk, the other was to cycle from Land's End to John O'Groats, which would be a massive challenge and it would be a big financial commitment as well, so I'm not sure if that at this stage is out of the question. So the thing I'm kind of leaning towards at the minute is, I did part of the Cumbria coast a couple of years ago, which the videos are on my YouTube. I started at Ulverston, and over the course of 3 days I got to Keswick, and then the intention was to go back and complete Keswick to Carlisle, and it never happened. But I would actually like to run it over the course of 2 days. So I'm thinking that might be my challenge for next year. I do have a couple of ultras next year, the Lap and Lakeland 50 again, so it's just looking at dates and whether I can fit in a multi-day ultra. It is over 70 miles, so it is a big challenge, and it will be subject to having people there to support as well. Maybe support runners and aid stations. So yes, I may be calling on people if it's something you're interested in. If you can think of any other challenges that you think I could do, if you let me know in the comments, I'm open to pretty much anything. Almost back in Grasmere now. Less than half a mile to go and then I'm done. So it's been a lovely day, a lovely walk. Tried to do a little bit of running in between, but yeah, it's just mainly been a walk. Thank you for being my therapy today. It's just been good to come out and just get a few things off my chest. So yeah, if you made it to the end of the video, thank you, I do appreciate it. No trip to Grasmere is complete without a visit to Sarah Nelson's gingerbread shop. So I've picked myself up a packet of Grasmere gingerbread and some chocolate truffles. Right, I'm going to enjoy these tonight now. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you soon.